welcome to VYPE Locker Talk, here for our special Top 10 weekly rankings show. I'm your host, Taylor Ahrens, and I'm here with co-host Scotty T. How are you today?
I'm great, Taylor. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did. How about you?
Yeah, was able to play a little golf, so that's always good.
That's always a good weekend, yeah. And it wasn't, did you get that rain? It was a little bit of rain, or at least, I guess that was yesterday.
We were able to avoid the rain. Yeah, the rain and monsoon yesterday.
Yeah.
So we were able to avoid the rain. You know, we're down here in Houston right now, so it was steamy. Steamy out there.
Steamy.
It was, look, it's August in Houston. It's gross. It's muggy. But we love it here because this is home.
Yeah, exactly. And also with us today is Josh. He's over there in Austin. How are you doing over there?
Hey, I'm doing good. I cannot complain at all. No rain on our end. It did rain this weekend, but no rain yesterday for us. So, just living in the moment here, getting ramped up for the season. I feel like I got so much to do in so little time.
Yeah, for sure. And so today we're going to get to our top 10 weekly rankings. We're doing this show every week. And as we said before, it goes by week basis. And Josh Cook, he was busy with some other obligations this week. So this is our interpretation of these top 10. So if you get offended, that's all right. We're here. It's a free space. Comment below. And we'll take your suggestions here.
I say send your emails to josh.cook@vipemedia.com.
There you go.
If you have any issues. Now, Josh C. also put out a Players of the Week article yesterday on VYPE.com, so be sure to go check that out. Did a phenomenal job with it. So, yes, he's busy. We have, especially with our VYPE Campus program, is very busy. Of media days, photo shoots, pretty much every single day. Like today, they're out at Lutheran South Academy. So we'll cut them some slack for now. I'm just kidding. We'll always cut them some slack. So, again, yes, these are our interpretations, subject to change, because last week were the preseason. We've had the balls are in air. They've been spiking it, digging it out. Yep. So there's been some mix-up in the rankings.
There has been some mix-up. So let's get right to it. We're going to start with Houston for 5A and 6A, starting with your top 10. At 10 is Magnolia West. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, wrong sheet. At number 10 is Deer Park. 9 is Tompkins. 8 is Friendswood. 7 is Fulshire. 6 is Klein. 5 is Seven Lakes. 4, Dawson. 3, Clear Springs. 2, The Woodlands. And number 1 is Barbers Hill. So we can already see things are shaking up here. Last week, Barbers Hills was 6 on our preseason rankings, and there's 4 teams on there that were unranked last year or in our preseason rankings. So let's dive a little deeper into that.
Right. I mean, I would say 2 big movers are the Woodlands and Clear Springs. So the Woodlands did come in within the top 20 on the VYPE Houston Volleyball Magazine, which is here. Go check that out.
Go check it out.
They're being distributed around the city of Houston as well. So they were on the radar, but I think we underestimated them a little bit. I forget which tournament they won, but they ended up winning a tournament. They're currently undefeated right now at the start of the year. Clear Springs is the other really big mover, going from unranked to number 3. Clear Springs lost a lot of talent from last year. Now, they do have some returners as well, so that's why I think we might have slept on them for a little bit. But, I mean, also big shouts to Barbers Hill being number 1. I mean, last week preseason we had Seven Lakes and Klein. They dropped to 5 and 6. Dawson's still holding strong at 4, but then Fulshire, they're loaded as well. So Deer Park and Friendswood, some 2 5A teams, I stuck them there in the top 10 as well. And Fulshire's actually, Fulshire's 5A. So there is some also big time teams that didn't make the top 10. That just shows how deep the city of Houston is in volleyball.
Yeah, exactly. It goes deep. There's a lot of loaded teams out there. And, again, we'll see what happens week to week. And so
we're showing a lot of love to these 5A schools.
We are.
I love it. It's
no
easy to be 6A
here.
biased. I'm not looking at you, Josh W., but.
Why? Because of what I did last week with the rankings?
I'm not accusing anybody of anything here, okay? I'm just saying, Flower Moan over Lovejoy.
Right.
Anyway.
The talent speaks for itself.
Well, hey, just wait till we get to the Dallas rankings. I didn't make those rankings this week. Our Dallas correspondent did, and it is a shakeup. I'll just say that. So I'm going to leave it at that for now.
That's true. A little tease,
A little
right? That's what you call in the
teaser.
business.
There we go. We
Little
love a good
tease.
shakeup. Okay, let's move on to a 1A through 4A through Houston. At your number 10 is Hardin, 9 Liberty, 8 is Splendora, 7 Bridge City, 6 Needville, 5 Schulenburg, 4 Columbus, 3 Huffman Hargrave, 2 is East Bernard, and number 1 is Belleville, which they were the top last week for our preseason rankings. You want to give a little bit more insight on that top 10 list?
Yeah, I mean, Belleville is still holding strong at number 1. Whenever I look at rankings, I love the big movers. That's why
I do too.
kind of mentioned Deer Park and Woodlands, Clear Springs in that 5A, 6A level moving so high, the 2 and 3. The big mover here, Columbus, going from 9 to 4. So it looks like within the top 10, everybody stayed within the top 10. Nobody who was unranked last week crept into it. So if we want to flash those rankings up on the screen one more time, Josh, it just seemed like there was kind of a shuffle here. So when there's a winner who moves up in the rankings in Columbus, Needville dropping from 2 to number 6. I think having a little bit slow start to the year, I think they're still probably a favorite to make a deep run in the playoffs, but it's still early in the season. They got some time, but so those were the big shakers, I would say.
Yep, still got some time to find their groove, get familiar with the team and everything in there. So it looks like
and
pretty
I,
good.
I do want to point out this is something interesting too. If you look at these rankings, for instance, Belleville stays at number 1 and they're 6 and 3, but we dropped teams like Fulshire and Seven Lakes and Klein for losing games as well. Which is it's one of those funny things, right? It's like, well, why didn't you drop Belleville when you dropped these other teams? But I think it's important to know, it's only a top 10. Lots of teams, especially when you talk 5A, 6A, these rankings are not going to be stagnant, right? So this past week was like tournament week, right? A lot of these teams are in tournaments, playing teams that they're going to probably see in the playoffs. And so, yes, they may drop, when we talk about like Seven Lakes and Klein, they may drop this week, but you may see them rise by the time the season's over. So people that are seeing that, don't freak out.
Real quick note on 5A, 6A Houston. Maybe we should have included Cy Ranch in this one. I just want to show some love to Cy Ranch. They finished second in the Cy Fair and KDISD volleyball tournament. So maybe they were I think they're preseason 15 for Houston. So they probably should be in this top 10. So I just want to show some love to Cy Ranch real quick before we move on to private school.
Always showing the love here at VYPE Locker Talk. Let's do it then. Let's move on to volleyball for Houston private schools. Number 10 is Episcopal. 9 is Bay Area Christian. 8, John Cooper. 7, St. Pius. 6, Northland Christian. 5, Woodlands Christian. 4, Rose Hill Christian. 3, Fort Bend Christian. At number 2 is Concordia Lutheran. And your number 1 spot is St. Agnes. Take it away.
Yeah, I think these rankings are still very similar to the preseason ones. The private schools are just now really starting to get into their tournaments, the preseason games. I think they started maybe last Thursday and Friday. So there's not really enough games under the belt for the private school realm yet. That is definitely subject to change starting this week. So St. Agnes and Concordia Lutheran, still the cream of the crop in 6A, and then for FBCA and TWCA will be a force in the 5A, and then Rose Hill coming in at 4A.
Yep, so stay tuned for those to shake up a little bit as they get more into their season. With that being said, let's move on to Austin and San Antonio for 5A and 6A. At your number 10 spot is St. Marcos, 9 Lake Travis, 8 Clark, 7 East Central, 6 Cedar Ridge, 5 Rose. Number 4 is Vandegrift, 3 Reagan, 2 New Braunfels Canyon, and number 1 is Brandeis.
So, Josh,
a lot of things shaking up here.
Yeah, there's a big shakeup. A lot of unranked teams moving into the top 10. I'll let Josh talk a little bit more about this because, but first off, Brandeis. We talked a little bit about them last week as a potential team that made a good run last year, but I think fell a little bit short. I didn't realize this, but they return a lot of players from last year's teams. Last year they had 2 D1 TCU commits. I thought they had graduated. They had not. That is my bad. So they're back with the vengeance. They won the Cy-Fair KDISD tournament this week, beating Cy Branch in the finals. So Brandeis, in my opinion, Josh, Brandeis put their name on the map as a serious contender for a deep and potential state championship run.
100%. And I think if you go back to the tape, I think we even said, hey, Brandeis came in at 3 last week, but they were a team that you had to watch because just of their pedigree and what they've done the last few years. So they come in at 9-0, like you said, winning that tournament. Bravos Canyon, 10-1, off to a hot start. We had them ranked 4 last week, so they moved up. Reagan moves down, after having 2 losses. Vandergrift, the team we didn't have ranked last week, coming in and moving on up into the rankings. And I think the last one I'll mention, San Marcos, off to a pretty good start, 8-2. They made the playoffs last year. I think they were on a kind of 2-watch list. And a team that just didn't make the cut, Austin High School. They are, I believe, 5-0 as, let me check my little thing. Yeah, so they're 5-0 right now. I think I kind of left them out because of the number of games compared to like San Marcos. I think you could have kind of switched both of them out. But San Marcos played a few more games, so I kind of gave them the edge as far as the number 10 spot. But I think when you look at it, Brandeis, the team to beat in 5A, 6A when you think Austin San Antonio right now.
You heard it here first. Look, watch out for Brandeis.
Seriously, I think there's a lot of really good teams that play in that tournament, and they beat them.
Yeah.
Currently undefeated, so that's why I think they put the entire state of Texas like, hey, we're here and we're ready to make that state championship run.
I love it.
Boom.
Boom. There you go.
Sorry
Drop
if that
the
was
mic.
loud for everybody.
All right, let's do it. Let's move on to the San Antonio and Austin rankings for 1A through 4A. Your number 10 spot is Divine, 9 is Thrall, 8 Somerset, 7 Blanco, 6 Lavernia, 5 Falls City, 4 is Pleasanton, and number 3 is Lexington, 2 is Poth, and number 1 spot is Wimberley. They were number 1 last week for our preseason rankings, so not much change for the top 3 there, but it does look there's 4 unranked teams that sneak their way in there. Josh, you want to take away?
Yeah, definitely. So Wimberley and Poth and Lexington, they stay pat at 1, 2, and 3. And here's the thing too. There's a lot of kind of teams we have to kind of sort through, and I use Max Preps to try and find records. Poth didn't have any games, although they had played some games. They just weren't posted in Max Preps at the time when I got these rankings. But they stay pat because at the end of the day they return a lot of people from last year. They got to the regional finals last year, so they're going to stay at number 2 for now. Pleasanton is kind of the one you look at that kind of jumps from unranked all the way to number 4. They are sitting at 10-0 according to the rankings I found as of this recording. Just a very dominant start to the season. They had a little struggle last year, which is why they didn't make the top 10 to start the season. But they're showing that they may have a squad this year. We'll see. And then, of course, some of these other teams, you talk about 1A through 4A, they're not playing on all these tournaments like 5A, 6A. So, you have your Blanco, Somersets, and Thralls. Each have only played 1 game according to what I can find. But to me, that's enough to kind of move them into that spot for now. So that's what we got. But I think right now, you're still looking at Wimberley and Poth. It's kind of the top tier, if you will. And then everyone else, we'll see what happens. I think you are on mute.
Sorry.
There we go.
My bad.
We're back.
Back and better than ever.
Exactly. So
hey, there's nothing like a live show. Last time we had
right?
the backdrop fall on us. We go on mute sometimes. It happens.
It's hilarious.
I can't believe that backdrop fell on us.
I still can't believe that. I went back and watched that video, and I think I watched it like 5 times.
Yeah.
So funny. So funny. I don't think it would ever get old. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Austin and San Antonio for private schools. Your number 10 spot is Saks. 9 is Hyde Park. At number 8 is Break-In Christian. 7 is Grace Academy Christian. 6, Brentwood Christian. 5 is Atoning Inn. Number 4 is Round Rock Christian. 3 is SA Atonement. 2, Cornerstone Christian. And number 1 spot is New Braunfels Christian. And it looks like 1 and 2 stay the same from our preseason rankings. And 2 unranked teams were able to get into the 6 and 7 spot. Who wants to take it away here, Josh? Or
Yeah,
Josh,
so
what you got?
Yeah, so I mean, look, New Braunfels Christian, I couldn't find any results on them, so they're still sitting at 0-0. But I'm not going to change them just yet. Although I think if I can't find any results by next week, they may have to take a little bit of a hit. Cornerstone Christian stays at number 2 at 5-2. They've beat some teams that are in our top 10 in some of the other areas. I think they actually played in one of the tournaments in Houston this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think when you look down the rest, especially when you talk about number 2 through probably about number 7, pretty much strong squads to start the year. I think number 3 through number 7, which is I think Brentwood. No, number 6 is Brentwood, all undefeated. So these private schools in the San Antonio, Austin areas are starting off the year strong. And how about this, Grace Academy Griffins? I know now I can't use this for the show, but what a mascot, the Griffins, Scott.
10 points for Gryffindor. That's what it sounds like. If you're going to be the Griffin, wait, what is a Griffin?
A Griffin is
a griffin.
So a griffin
Is it a type of like bird?
So a griffin is, I think it's Egyptian mythology, is a lion and an eagle mixed together, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, looks
It's a
pretty
mythical creature.
intimidating.
So it has the body, tail, and back legs of a lion, the head and wings of an eagle, and sometimes an eagle's talons as its feet. Only sometimes, though.
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, that's
Good for them.
a pretty good like
Griffins.
animal combination.
We learned something
Powerful.
new today.
Yeah, exactly. We learn something new every day on this show. Always keeping us on our toes. So Griffins, watch out, they're coming.
Yeah, watch out for the Griffins. They're going to send their talons and lions after you, or
Oh my!
I don't
Something
know.
after
I
you.
think we should move
Yeah.
on.
Oh my, yeah, right.
Oh, that's great.
Lions, tigers, bears, oh my. Love it. Okay, let's move on to, I think we're at Dallas Fort Worth, 5A through 6A. We're flying by this. At number 10 is Denton Geyer, 9 Flower Mound, 8 is Coppell, 7 Garland Saxes, 6 VR Eaton, 5 Colleyville Heritage, 4 Denton, 3 Lucas Lovejoy, 2 Plano West, and number 1 spot is Midlothian. And they moved up last week from number 8 to this week to number 1 spot.
You know, I was very surprised to see Midlothian in that number 1, Josh. And then also Plano West, strong start to the season. Same with Colleyville at 7-1. Colleyville Heritage being 9-2. I mean, Eaton is undefeated, and they're coming in at number 6 right now. So, Josh, what say you on these rankings? Flower Mound also. Big drop by Shannon Williford, our DFW writer.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to have to text her about
Yeah.
this.
Look, I wish we could get her on right now, because when she gave me these rankings, I was pretty surprised. You know, you see Flower Mound drop from number 2, or was it number 1? I'm sorry, all the way to number 9. Lucas Lovejoy drops only 1, but they're 2-2. That kind of makes sense. Yeah, Midlothian at 7-4, going all the way to number 1. I was very surprised by that as well. Let's see. Let me see here if she gave us any notes on. I know she sent us when she sent us the rankings. Let's see if she sent us any notes on this. I know she sent a couple of.
I'm seeing notes on Lucas Lovejoy.
Yeah.
Even though they're 2-2, they're still in the top 5 due to less games, and they are the defending champs. She said Lucas Lovejoy doesn't stay down long.
So we'll have to get her on the show.
Which is fair.
We'll have to get her on the show next week just to really see, especially if it changes again, just to see. Hey, you gotta have to explain this. I know a lot of people. But she's down there in the trenches, right? So I believe her rankings over what I may produce. But we're gonna have to get her on the show, because I think there are gonna be some people that look at this and scratch their heads. But hey, that's what we love, rankings, right? People hate us all the time for it, but hey, that's why we do what we do.
Right. You know, I'm also curious too, Josh, on it's easy to go off records, but to your point about being in the trenches, there's nothing like seeing it live or seeing, because some teams can look good. Maybe they're just missing shots here or there, or it's still early in the season. And frankly, if you're a coach, I don't think you want your team to be firing on all cylinders yet. You want to see them maybe struggle a little bit, show, because if you're already thinking like, oh, well, I got nothing really to work on and it's August,
Right.
you're not going to be ready come late October, November when it's playoff time, and hopefully those teams making deep state runs. So I think if teams are looking good, but maybe the record doesn't reflect it, maybe that also plays a factor into these rankings.
Yeah, and this is technically tournament season, if you will, and so you're going to see teams going and playing maybe up a classification or playing against some stronger competition. And hey, yes, that might affect their record, but that could help them out in the long run.
Yeah, like I remember last year, Episcopal in Houston, an SBC school, they were playing Fulshire, who went to the 5A state title game. They were playing Klein, who went to the 6A state title game. So especially for the private schools, that's where they kind of test the waters with the big public schools. But, some of those private schools can hang with the public schools too. So, Josh, to your point, absolutely. Play different people. Heck, we were talking about Brandeis earlier. They won a Houston area tournament. But also for a team like Brandeis, I think that shows that, hey, not only can we beat teams in our region, we can beat teams anywhere in the state. So, but that's why we love tournament time, right?
Right. You never know. That's why we play the game.
Yeah, you get the different matchups. It's pretty cool.
Yep. It's good to see those matchups that you wouldn't typically see in a regular season.
It's almost like maybe not. I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but start of college basketball season, there's all these random tournaments that are going on that teams play each other, or heck, even the NCAA tournament. That's why we love the upsets and the Cinderella stories, because you won't necessarily see a George Mason play Duke or Florida Gulf Coast play Duke, whoever it is. Who's that? Or who's the 16 seed that beat Virginia? It was UMBC, the Golden Retrievers.
I remember that.
Right, Josh?
Yes, correct.
The Golden Retrievers is an all-time mascot. But I digress. Tournament season is a great time.
We
that's my
love
point.
tournament season here. Okay, let's move towards our Dallas-Fort Worth 1A through 4A. Your number 10 spot is Boyd is taking that. 9, Melissa. 8 is Stevensville. 7, Kennedale. 6 is Graham. 5, Gunter. 4, Decatur. 3, Argyle. Number 2 is Farmersville, and your number 1 spot is Salina, which they were unranked last week in our preseason rankings, and it looks like Decatur was our number 1, fell to number 4, and 2 other teams that were unranked are sneaking their way in there. So who wants to take this away?
Josh, I'll give my initial thoughts real quick, and then I'll turn it over to you. Salina coming in at 10-0. What a start to the season. Fantastic for them. The other big one is Decatur. Shayna Williford had Decatur as the number 1 team in the entire Metroplex. And now she has them as number 4 in just 1A through 4A top 10. That's a big shaker. They're 6-3 right now. It's still early in the season. Maybe they have a big player coming back from injury or something like that. But Decatur coming in at number 4, I think is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, maybe getting the kinks out now and trying to fix it later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and look, I think Shayna takes the weekly part of the rankings to heart, which I think makes perfect sense, right? These are weekly rankings, and so she's saying, hey, for this past week, she may have put Decatur as number 1 in the whole DFW area for all classifications, but she's saying, hey, for this past week of action, they're sitting at 6-3, where you had teams like Salina and Farmersville 10-0, 9-1, Argyle 7-1. So it makes sense why she would put them at number 4. I do get that, but I don't think it's a slight Decatur to put them at number 4, even though you had them at number 1 for the whole city. So this past week, and again, tournament season, putting in a lot of games, putting in a lot of work. I don't think you're going to see Decatur unless maybe for whatever reason they have an off year. I don't think you're going to see Decatur this low every week.
Yeah, I agree. Just because they're coming in now doesn't mean they're not like a state championship contender at the end of the year.
Right.
Maybe they're just in a slump. It happens. Baseball players have it all the time. So Yes, I agree with everything you said, Josh.
Yep, just a moment in time. It'll pass. We'll see if it passes. And we're going to move on to our final ranking of the day. That's Dallas-Fort Worth for private schools. Number 10 is Trinity Christian. 9 is Nolan Catholic. 8, Heritage Christian. 7, Fort Worth Christian. 6 is Fort Worth Lake Country. 5, Parish Episcopal. 4, Argyle Liberty. 3 is Prestonwood. 2 is Red Oak Ovilla. And number 1 is Carlton Prince of Peace. Looks like there's a few shakeups in there. 3 unranked teams. Argyle is dropped to number 4. And who wants to take this? Josh, you know a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think I'll point out here too that, you know, for the preseason we came up with those rankings, and then for this past week one, Shayna again came up with these. So, you know, she knows the area a little more well. So maybe she's saying, hey, yes, while private school may not have played as many games as, you know, everyone else, I know this area. Here's how it should have been maybe in the preseason. So I think these are kind of spot on for the most part. Yeah, I have no complaints with what Shayna put here.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it looks good. That's a really good point about what you said, because that was tough with the Houston area private schools as well. They're just, I don't know if there's been any enough games. I mean, you see some of these public schools, they've already played 9, almost 10 games. The private schools have been lucky if they've gotten 5. So that's why it's still kind of early to tell. But yes, I agree. I think Shannon's got it right.
Well, and
right
if you look
for
at
this week.
If you look at it, the 2 teams she has at 1 and 2 have played the most games. You got Carlton Prince of Peace sitting at 7-1, Red Oak Ovilla sitting at 7-2 with 1 tie as well. So each of them almost at 10 games already. So that tells me they probably played in the tournament, and hey, you can tell why they're at 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's true. The more games you played, it means you're probably winning these tournament games.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, perfect. Any final thoughts as we kind of wrap this show up and take it to a close?
Sure. Again, I'm very bullish and high on Brandeis. I think Brandeis is setting themselves up for success for this week or for this year. Again, I don't want to necessarily assume that they're peaking too early, because you want to always get better throughout the season. But I think them winning this tournament shows that they have the talent and the confidence to play with anybody in the state. Because in a weird way, whenever you go on the road or play teams that you don't usually see, there can be an uncomfortable feeling about that, or an intimidation. We've talked about brand names. It happens in football all the time. When you see North Shore or Katy on the schedule, you're like, uh-oh, that sounds good. There are those same volleyball programs out there too. You see Lucas Lovejoy, Klein, Seven Lakes, you're kind of like, uh-oh. But Brandeis, I think, proved that it doesn't matter who's on their schedule, who's in front of them. They are confident that they can beat them. Again, not in our rankings. I want to show some love to Cy Ranch, finishing second in that tournament as well. So those are the two I wanted to show the most love to from the Austin, San Antonio, Houston area. And then shout out to Midlothian moving up to number 1 in the 5A, 6A rankings after being unranked. Pretty big move.
Pretty impressive there.
Yeah. Josh, how about you? What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the comments on that once we put the rankings up on Twitter and Instagram. So I am ready to see the hate we get. Because I remember for baseball and softball, that was probably one of the favorite things of the week, is just seeing how people reacted to our rankings. But yeah, I think you're right. Or it can even be said, maybe Brandeis is trying to be one of those teams where when people see them on the schedule, they're saying, uh-oh. So I think you, at this point in the season, you kind of do have to say uh-oh when you're playing Brandeis, because, like I said, I think from all the teams, I think they're the ones that have been most impressive so far to start the season, if you were to ask me. So, Brandeis, we've got our eye on you, and let's see what you do the rest of the season. And that's all I got.
We see you. I literally just quote tweeted that, Josh.
You.
I don't know if you saw that from the San Antonio account, because Dennis Silva, the second rider down here in Houston, was at the tournament, and he was very. I talked to him about it yesterday. He was very impressed with Brandeis, and I think I literally just quote tweeted like a team to watch this year, and it did really well on Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of things were shaken up this week as week 1 was in the books for volleyball, and we still got lots of stuff coming up. We are going to do the show every week, and again, these rankings are going to change, and hopefully we can get Shayna in here next week to give us a little bit more insight. So we'll be doing the top 10 rankings every week here, and again, Brandeis, watch out because it looks like they're ready to attack in this volleyball season. And again, my name is Taylor. This is Scotty T.
Real
Over
quick,
there in Austin.
don't forget that next week we got those preseason football rankings.
Is football?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll have week 2 of volleyball and the preseason rankings of football next Tuesday. And also, just a little, just a little kind of heads up for everyone. We are going to start doing weekly shows around noon every day. So we'll have our Monday show like usual. Tuesday will be rankings. Wednesday is going to be our VYPE podcast show. So stay tuned for that. I know Will Turboff, our VYPE ambassador, super excited about that. Thursday, we'll be doing a preview show where we look at some of the games you got to watch. And then Friday, we're going to be picking some of the games that we feel you got to watch and who's going to win those games. So stay tuned for those.
Exactly.
We're making plays.
Making plays. So much exciting stuff happening. We'll be here every day of the week giving you all the tea and all the details. Again, this is Taylor. That's Scotty T. And over there in Austin is Josh. And thanks for tuning in this week. And we will see you again shortly. Have a great week.